Welcome to the another episode of r/Askreddit. What is a situation you have almost no sympathy with? When a parent abuses their child so much that their child eventually grows up and disowns them. I especially don't care when the parent then has no one to care for them in their old age. Yup. One of my childhood friends had an extremely abusive mom. Not physically, but verbally, and she treated the poor girl like a house slave, making her do literally all the housework from age 8 or so, while openly spoiling her sister. Why? The abused girl was her shame child, aka the baby, that resulted from a night of drunken fun with a stranger, which in their culture is a huge taboo. The other sister was from a marriage, so she was the one worthy of love. Anyway, this girl spent a lot of time at my house from the time we were 7 and 8 to the time she graduated. Sleepovers every weekend, and my parents basically treated her like a second daughter. The second she turned 18, she moved all the way across the country. She was smart as a whip, so she had no trouble getting accepted to an Ivy League school, and my dad co-signed her loans. She's a doctor now, living her best life in a big city, while her sister is struggling to make ends meet with a deadbeat guy and pregnant with 3. Instead of being proud of her incredibly smart and strong daughter who started life in a Manila slum, but managed to achieve more than most people born into privilege, her mom asked when she's going to buy her a house, since she's rich now. My friend laughed and hung up, and never spoke to her mom again. She still talks to us, but neither mom nor her golden child sister so much as get a text at Christmas. She is an absolute queen in my book, and I have zero sympathy for her mom. Edit. I'm too lazy to respond to everyone, but thanks on my friend's behalf for all the well wishes and support. She's an amazing lady. A girl I knew from high school burglarized a house for drug money, got caught, and was sentenced to pay restitution at a low amount over the course of several years. One day she started posting on Facebook begging people for money or she would go to jail, saying the judge had decided to make her pay the rest of the amount in full right then. When I checked the court documents, it turned out she had been telling the court she couldn't afford the payments, and when her victim checked on Miss Burglar's social media, she was posting about getting her hair and nails done, and a short cruise she had recently taken, and the victim lodged a complaint with the court. Posting about that part in the comments got me blocked, but I think a few people got their money back from her stupid GoFundMe. I had no chill and no sympathy for the crap she pulled, and I still don't. ETA, she raised the remaining money she owed from friends and family, so she got off scot-free with a pity story. People who always twist things around to victimize themselves. I see that you've met my mother-in-law. Darvo deny, attack, reverse victim and defender. It's insane, and once you know what it is you can protect yourself from it. It's like a script in a play. People who buy designer dogs from puppy mills then complain about the vet bills for the breed's well-known hereditary issues. Puppy mills as a thing by themselves need to be shut down. I seriously don't understand how there aren't better laws and enforcement on puppy mills. They're such a widespread awful thing that we all know damn well is happening. I cheated on my wife and now she left me, boohoo sir. I have a friend who was borderline an affair partner. His so opened up her then marriage as a way to soft delete her marriage and sleep with my friend without fear of being alone. If it didn't work out, her now ex-husband only acquiesced on opening the marriage in order to try to prevent a divorce. The ex-wife of that situation is now upset at my friend, her current for something from his past before they even got together. She's treating him like he cheated on her for having been involved with someone before they were involved. I'm having a hard time being understanding to either of them given how they both navigated her past marriage. Had a friend whose boyfriend cheated on her like 5 times in 2 years. Always calling me at 3 AM crying, calling him names, and saying she is dumping him. She ended up marrying him, and the first phone call I got I hung up. You married the fool, you deal with it, and quit waking me up. Whose boyfriend cheated on her like 5 times in 2 years. I think you mean whose boyfriend got caught cheating on her like 5 times. FDFY. He's really bad at cheating. I work a lot with families from diverse socio-economic backgrounds. I try to show and embody as much empathy as I can, because my parents were once in really tight places too, but it drives me insane when a parent has money for weed and cigarettes, but their child has no food after school or clean diapers. I really struggle with the idea that people are that selfish. Your kid doesn't deserve to wear diapers 12 to 14 hours at a time, so you can get high. ETA, I did not expect this to get a huge response. Thank you to all who have shared stories, and those who highlighted the helpers that stepped in to fill the gaps. I just watched the Mr. Rogers video, where he said to look for the helpers. I hope we all can seize the opportunities to become one when we can. Edit 2. A lot of people are pointing out addiction not being a choice, and I get that. But the OP asked where I struggled, and I answered honestly. But I really appreciate the discussion it is starting around being there for kids facing all kinds of neglect and abuse. I was 14 when my sister and I dragged a mattress from our parents' garage up the hill to our friend's house because we learned he was forced to sleep on the floor. Not due to space or poverty, but sheer neglect by his father, an officer in the military. We got to make his room comfortable for him, and he got to sleep on a bed for the last year and a half of living at home, before he got out. And, because there were now outside eyes, the neglect lessened, as he knew my father was also military. I think it is truly amazing the stories shared here, and I want you all to know I have read each of them. Driving drunk. Actually zero sympathy with. One of my now former friends said that driving drunk is his right. He went berserk when he was charged with a DUI. He said that he went to jail because he was using his freedom wrong. No, it's because you were putting others' lives in danger. I grew up with an alcoholic father who drove impaired 90% of the time. He almost got us killed more times than I can count. No sympathy. He's the reason why I only drink 1 or 2 drinks maybe once a year. My sister-in-law has walked out of half a dozen jobs in as many months and now is having trouble getting hired. I used to prepare her resume for her, but I'm not anymore. I can't polish a turd. What do you mean walked out? Just said, I quit and left. I've seen this happen in movies, but surely not in real life. I mean, she literally told her boss, I quit in the middle of a shift, and walked out 6 times. I don't know what she's looking for from employment, but whenever she encounters anything remotely unpleasant or difficult, she bails. She has a homeschool education and no training or certification, so her employment options are pretty limited. Someone who is abusive. I can understand that people like that were probably harmed at some point in life, but that doesn't excuse maliciously using and abusing people around you. Yep, I have siblings. We have shared experiences. Half of us moved on and the other half have the I've suffered, so should others mentality. Parents who don't discipline their children for poor behavior and then complain about how the whole world is against little Billy Bob for doing normal childhood antics. Read. Crimes. Also parents who use an iPad to babysit and then complain that their child has no attention span and has meltdowns when they take it away. Parents who don't discipline their children and then their children get hurt. Your kid shouldn't be running in a restaurant with staff carrying boiling hot coffee and heavy ceramic plates. Your kid shouldn't be throwing a ball at the ceiling in a store with glass-like ballasts. Your kid shouldn't be climbing the shelves that were meant to hold the weight of display shoes, not people. I've seen all of these things happen. Call it what it is. Child endangerment. People who text and drive because of someone who did just that. I lost a family member who should still be alive right now. Because of the person who texted while driving, my grandpa died. He should still be here. He should have seen me learn to drive, go on a first date, attend school dances, graduate high school, and witness me turn 21. But that never happened because someone thought their phone was more important than the people around them on the road. I miss him every day, and soon it'll be 9 years since he passed. A few years ago I was driving on the interstate around midnight, and there was a semi that was going about 50 miles per hour and kept swerving over the lines, so I cautiously tried to pass him. As I passed him, I looked over, and the driver had a tablet on his steering wheel and headphones on. The was watching a movie on his tablet while driving a semi on the interstate. I couldn't believe it. Weaponized incompetence. I can't find the post, but a good and satisfying story from Twarks summarized. OP's mom had a very lazy husband. He made a mess and asked her to clean it because he didn't know how. She said she'd only do it if he watched to learn. After she finished wiping the counter, she picked up a bottle of chocolate sauce and squirted it everywhere and said, "Okay, now you know how. Go ahead." We all forget things and get tired and make mistakes. but too many repetitions. It's chocolate sauce time. Cheaters, relationship, being exposed or confronted about their behavior. Man, I used to live that show Cheaters. It was like a mobile Maury show. I absolutely loved that show until I got cheated on. Then it just made me sick. Funny enough, I used to watch the show with the girl who cheated on me, so double the reason never to watch it again. Men who insist on not using condoms who are shocked Pikachu face when the woman becomes pregnant. My brother-in-law never wanted kids and started sleeping with a woman who was very vocal about having her fourth baby. He never wore a condom and he supposedly saw her pushing his back into her after. But did he stop having? Nope. Cue his shock and anger when she became pregnant. He tried telling us she baby trapped him. I shut that down quickly. If you are a man and you don't want kids, please be in control of your birth control. Whether that be condoms or a vasectomy, it's your job. Rude to retail worker. Like I might have waived the fees if you were nice, but you weren't so. Man, people do whole TikToks and YouTube videos about retail hacks to get extra stuff or pay lower prices. My personal retail hack? Being nice to retail workers. To be clear, I'm not nice to get things. I work a customer facing job too, so I know how nice it is to get a reprieve. But at the same time, I have gotten a lot of free stuff from fast food places and elsewhere because someone didn't want it / pay for it and the workers didn't want to put it back, or they couldn't because it was a fountain drink or something, or having an item returned, or whatever else. Free drink here, free taco there, etc. All it takes is a smile and some pleases and thank you. Then you really throw the 1-2 punch of wishing them a nice day as well. My wife has a friend who, after her 7th or 8th DUI, finally got sentenced to a short time in prison. A couple of months. My wife was horrified. Not me. I despise people who drive on drugs, even more so, because I love drugs. I love getting up and having a great time. I'll hit the bong all afternoon and watch cartoons. I'll do shots or chug beers with my friends. Next month I'll be seeing Tool on a whole lot of LSD. And because I've spent so much time intoxicated, I know for a fact that you absolutely should never drive a car while you're doing it. She could have killed someone, including herself. Do your drugs in a safe adult setting and stay there, or get a ride for fuck's sake. The best part? Her time in the box saved her life. She got out and got sober. Started going to a church, met a nice man, lost a bunch of extra weight. A couple years later we attended her wedding, and it was lovely. Everyone's so happy that she sorted her life out. I'm no fan of the prison industrial complex, but there are people who can massively benefit from a timeout and a stern lecture. History class at school, a boy copied and pasted his essay from Wikipedia and didn't even take the annotation numbers out, and he was old enough that he should have known way better. The teacher was a strict man and you can guess how that went. I cheated on my homework at school too, but that was just laziness. Had a girl in my class. She missed every single gym class, telling the teacher every time to be on her period. The teacher nodded and duly noticed that every time, and at the midterm report he gave her a 6, the worst possible grade. She really had the guts to complain, and he brushed her off asking her if she believed that he was that stupid. People who chose drugs over their children. I'm a victim of this. Because my mother was a heroin addict and my father died when I was a toddler, I was a victim of every type of abuse known to man. I was never safe. I was always hungry and sick, and I was always humiliated by her actions. The other kids and their parents knew she was an addict, so they were not allowed to be friends with me. My only Christmas memory was her being high, falling and knocking down the Christmas tree. I'm sorry and hope you're in a better place now. Bullfighters getting gored. Maybe you shouldn't have decided to torture an animal for entertainment. I always root for the bull. In Rodeo 2. Pregnant women that drink used drugs. I'm a NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, RN, that sees the awful effects to these babies. If you want to F up your own life then fine. Don't you dare drag an innocent child into it. I used to work for child welfare. I agree with this. I would add mothers who keep having babies while an active addiction because they want to keep one well get clean, and you can have the children you already birthed back. People who complain about barely making it to their next paycheck and order 3 Uber Eats meals a day. My friend was in this situation. I bought her an Instant Pot and a recipe book of simple affordable recipes thinking it was a thoughtful gift to help her financial troubles a bit. She never used it once. You're a good friend. I love mine. It's the best way to make boiled eggs, make a casserole, and it won't eat up the entire house. Coming from someone with quite significant mental issues, I empathize, but do not sympathize for people blaming bad or inappropriate behavior on mental illness. Your mental health can be a reason, but not an excuse for poor behavior. If you are aware of your mental issues, you need to take the proper actions to act appropriately and or take accountability for your actions. Yes, mental illness 10,000% affects how you think and act, but it is also your job to take accountability rather than blaming your inappropriate behavior on something that you know you have to work around. There are obviously exceptions when it comes to very serious mental illnesses that are not controllable, but if you are at that point you should be taking steps to work on or with it to keep yourself and others safe. But at the end of the day, other people should never be treated poorly just because you have a mental illness. Incels have been one of my topics lately, and I have zero sympathy for them. They have the mindset of 13-year-old nice guys at the best of time. They're mad at women because they believe they are entitled to wonder why women go with chads, and more than once I've seen incels advocate for legalizing rape. They are colossally people, but rather than using introspection and being, yeah no, not people, they double, triple, and quadruple down, and then blame women for rejecting them. Being an incel is often their entire personality, so they just won't bother to fix themselves. Having 6 to 7 kids with 6 to 7 different men. Or on the flip side, having 6 to 7 kids with 6 to 7 different women, and then you wonder why your paycheck is being garnished because you haven't paid child support in 10 years. I also judge baby mama 3 to 7. Baby mama number 2, maybe number 3, gets a pass because we're all gullible when the charming douchebag spouts all the "my ex is the worst" nonsense, but anyone that believes he just keeps ending up with psychos and doesn't believe he's the problem deserves to have to get in line for the scraps of child support. Guys who got someone pregnant but didn't wear a condom. One thing, only one thing you had to do. As a woman who is on birth control, I would never have sex without a condom. The risk isn't worth it. But every guy I've ever hooked up with has wanted to go without. Like seriously? How are you surprised when something happens then? I'd be triple wrapping that if it were me. A friend of mine got pregnant by a guy like this, who was furious that and apparently, she later learned, 4 other women had done this to him. Like my guy, if you've had 5 unplanned pregnancies on your hands, reevaluate your life. People who keep crying over their situation, but refuse to make any changes to make their situation better. Edit. I do still sympathize with them of course, but it just seems pointless because it ended up hurting me instead. Also, this was directed towards a very specific situation in my life, not an attack on anyone who is stuck in a rut and has actual issues which are next to impossible to sort out. I hope and pray anyone who is going through SMTH like this can come out of it stronger, whatever the situation may be. One thing that's tricky in this same idea is that victims of abuse have their self-worth crushed, so they seek out and feel natural around people. The weirdest thing I've learned about our brains is that what feels good isn't the thing that's best for us, it's the thing that's congruent with our internal understanding. Whether that's an understanding of ourselves, for instance this is the love I deserve, or if it's an understanding of the world, think like any prejudice. There's a lot that seems to work like that, where our brain's natural functionality leads us into spirals and pits with little room for exit. Another example is how memories and thoughts are relational, and part of that relationship is emotions. This means that feeling despair will more easily evoke thoughts that cause despair, or memories of other events that made you felt this way. It's definitely frustrating though seeing loved ones stuck in a rut, talking about how they hate XYZ, but their actions keep them deep in their cycles. People are just not seeing clearly what's keeping them in that cycle, and honestly it probably applies to most people, that we don't see the way out of the thing that's troubling us. Thank you.